booktube, it's Janet, and today I've got my non-fiction November TBR. Non-fiction November, I think it's the second year it's been running, and I saw this on a Book Olive's channel and I thought it was a really great idea. I absolutely love non-fiction books. They tend to be something I've always got on the go in addition to the fiction that I'm reading, and sometimes I'll read one from cover to cover, and sometimes there's things that I just dip in and out of. So I thought this was a great idea. I'm interested in all types of non-fiction as well. I think the quality around that you can get is absolutely brilliant on such a fantastic range of subjects. So there are 4 challenges to non-fiction November. First challenge is to read something new, and it's either a new release, a book I've just hauled, and a subject that is new to you. And the book that I've chosen for this meets every single one of those categories, and that is The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery. And I actually saw this on the Book Olive's channel and I thought it sounded absolutely fascinating. And she was saying that it's all about not just the natural history of octopuses, octopi, octopeds. Actually it says octopuses on the back, but it's all about humanity, and she absolutely loved it. And when I bought it in Waterstones, the guy on the counter who'd read it, he said it's absolutely fantastic, it's fascinating. So I know nothing about octopuses. It says on the back that the naturalist Cy Montgomery explores the emotional and physical world of the octopus and the remarkable connections an astonishing complex spirited creature it makes with humans. So that definitely sounds absolutely fantastic. It's new to me on all fronts. The next challenge is controversial, and by that they say it's a debated subject matter, it's a controversial memoir, or it's got a controversial cover. And what I've chosen for this is Queer, A Graphic History by Meg John Barker and Julia Scheel. So it's the history of homosexuality done as a graphic novel. It says on the back, activist, academic Meg John Barker and cartoonist Julia Scheel illuminate the histories of queer through the LGBTQ+ action in this groundbreaking book. A kaleidoscope of characters from the diverse worlds of pop culture, film, activism and academia, such as James Bond, Judith Butler and the Wizard of Oz, guide us on a journey through the ideas, people and events that have shaped queer theory. From identity politics and gender roles to privilege and exclusion, Queer explores how we came to view sex, gender and sexuality in the ways that we do, and how culture can shift our perspective of what's normal. So shake off that status quo and start seeing things queerly. So that sounds absolutely brilliant. It's all sort of a monochrome palette inside, quite a thick chunky graphic novel, so a really important book, and so quite keen to do that one as well. And I think you'll agree, to some people it's a controversial subject, to most of us it's not. The third challenge is titled Important, and by that they've said a book that is important in your life, work or important to have read. And the one I've chosen for this is Depressive Illness, The Curse of the Strong by Dr. Tim Cantofer. This is a subject that's very close to my heart. I suffer with clinical depression, as do other members of my family. And in my professional life I come across a lot of people who are suffering with this. I think we're getting better at understanding and tolerating mental illnesses, but we've still got a long way to go. I do feel that there's still a stigma attached to mental illness. There is still a lack of services out there that support people who are struggling, and so this was recommended to me, and it's only a quick read, and I thought, well, this would be a great one to fit that category. The final challenge is fascinating. By this they've said a subject that you find totally fascinating. So what I'm going to talk about is, I'm very interested in history and particularly the Victorian era. And so the book that I have started reading already, it's Inconvenient People by Sarah Wise, and it's Lunacy, Liberty and the Mad Doctors in Victorian England, and it's a beautiful hardback. And this is all about the sanitariums in the Victorian era and how easy it was to commit somebody to a sanitarium. The bits I've read so far are real case histories of people who were committed against their will for bizarre reasons. There was one that I've read that a mother got her son committed because he made quite a successful business and he had lots of money, and he wouldn't let her get her hands on the money, so she had him committed. So I'll just read from the flap, and it says, the 19th century saw repeated panics about sane individuals being locked away in lunatic asylums. With the rise of the mad doctor profession, English liberty seemed to be threatened by a new generation of medical men willing to incarcerate difficult family members in return for high fees paid by unscrupulous spouse or friend. And contrary to popular modern belief, the mad woman in the attic was at least as likely to have been a madman. Among the victims were the beautiful and charismatic Rosina, wife of the novelist Edward Bulwer Lytton, Edward Davis, victim of a mother's greed, Louisa Lowe, who paid for a religious fervour, and John Percival, who despite the best efforts of the abusive asylum attendants cured himself. So it says Sarah Wives uncovers 12 shocking stories, some untold for over a century, which reveal the darker side of the Victorian upper and middle classes, their sexuality, fears of inherited madness, financial greed and fraudulence, and chillingly evoke the black motives at the heart of the phenomenon of the inconvenient people. So what I've read so far, it's absolutely fascinating. So yeah, it's a big book, but I think it's important and it's really enjoyable. And then I'm also just going to talk to you about the non-fiction books that I've been dipping in and out of recently, that I'm going to try and finish in November because it is non-fic November, and my love of history and the Victorian era. So I'm currently reading The Victorian City, Everyday Life in Dickens' London by Judith Flanders, and it is an absolutely beautiful book. This is like the naked hardback. And what this is sort of talking about, it's covering sort of the period over a day and the life of the everyday person on the streets of London, because apparently Charles Dickens was a great walker and he walked all over London all the time, and he wrote about it, and there was a lot of the inspiration for his stories. And what Judith Flanders does is she takes you on that journey that Dickens walked, and links that in with some of his writing, some of his characters, the Oliver Twist, the Nicholas Nicklebys, David Copperfields, and she sort of explains where the inspiration for that social commentary in his novels came from, and explores the daily life of an ordinary person in London through the streets that she's walking, and you'll get sort of like a real picture of what it was like to be a taxi driver in those days, a watercress seller, those sorts of things, how people made ends meet, how they survived every day on the streets, and it's absolutely fascinating. It's so well written, and you just sort of read it like a novel. It's really, really good. So I am about nearly halfway through that, so I'm hoping to finish that one. The next one I'm about a third of the way through is Charlotte Bronte, A Life by Claire Harmon. Again, a beautiful book, and this is a biography of Charlotte Bronte. I absolutely love the Brontes. I love Jane Eyre, it's my favourite book of all time. I don't live very far from Haworth, so go as often as I can, and you can go around the parsonage and see where the Brontes are buried, and you can go into the Father's Church, and even sometimes you can go into the old school hall where the Bronte sisters taught. So this is an absolutely brilliant retelling of Charlotte Bronte's life, and again it reads like a novel. It really makes you see it through that first person, almost like you're seeing life through Charlotte's eyes. So I'm hoping to finish this one as well. And the final one I'm currently sort of dipping in and out of is Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates. I've just read about, I don't know, maybe a quarter of that, and it's one of those that I just pick up, have a little read and put it back down again. I think I have to do that because often some of the things that I'm reading absolutely incense me, and a lot of the things I'm reading make me angry, make me upset, so I'm just dipping in and out of that as and when. That's my TBR for Non-Fic November. I'm really looking forward to taking part. I'm going to be reading these books alongside everything else that I read because I like to have a good mixture, but I definitely do want to meet the challenges. We've got a whole month to do it, so I think it's definitely doable. Looking forward to hearing what everybody else is reading and what everybody else thinks, or if they've read any of these, what they think of them. Keep reading. I'll see you all soon. Bye!